I need to clear something up off of a Politico article, and this is the uproar about senators and your tenure at the World Bank, where something was said, you're not a scientist. I fell off my chair because you are the physics major from Colorado College. Always. Clarify right now your position with the World Bank, given this turf war, this political war in Washington.
So it's very clear that people cause greenhouse gas emissions, and that affects climate change. And so that should have been clear in the original remarks, and whether you're a scientist or not doesn't matter. And so it got off track. I think we're back on track because what the World Bank is doing is a massive amount with regard to climate change, both in countries that need adaptation, living with the changes going on, and with the mitigation. So there's this intense focus within the World Bank on these efforts.
And what's great about this, folks, and this goes back decades and decades, one of the coolest science majors in America was at Colorado College. The way they taught science at CC was so different back when Malpass was there in physics. Let's go to the equation. S equals VOT plus 1/2 GT squared. There's the gravitational constant in there. Nassim Taleb, the derivative giant, says that G matters right now. What does the new gravity of higher yields and inflation mean for the debt buildup that the World Bank confronts?
Within physics, the gravity is always there. Within economics, there was this temporary period where interest rates could be at zero, and there were various explanations of why that was working. Now it's back to where there is a connection between interest rates and inflation. So the central banks are moving up toward some kind of neutral, where it's non-inflationary. Fiscal policy is also changing massively. One of the themes of this week for the advanced economies is how do you mesh those two policies, the fiscal and monetary policy, so they don't conflict with each other. So if that means you're tightening on one side, do you want to tighten on another side?
But what does it mean for the World Bank and the billions of people in the world adhere to the Bank of England and to the Fed?
This is a really challenging, and I call it a crisis-facing development. People living in developing countries aren't getting capital. In fact, there's a capital outflow. They're seeing their currencies weaken, and a lot of their debt is in dollar terms. So as their currency weakens, the burden of the debt goes up, and interest rates are going up. So that's really a trifecta, a triple burden going on to the countries. And many of them had built up debt under COVID because that was the cyclical, the counter-cyclical response. So there's been a lot of talk the last couple days about ways to have a better debt restructuring process for the countries that hit the wall.
Somehow seen through currency, from Mundell to Jacob Frankel and on, we've studied foreign exchange on this, but the modern equivalent is in the derivative space and in the immediacy of overnight swap lines. This goes back to your Bear Stearns tenure. Do you feel we have a stronger structure now with swap agreements with the rich guys, the Fed, to allow the World Bank community to have liquidity in these distorted times?
So developing countries have a challenge in finding swap lines. Some do with the IMF or with the U.S. Fed, but for the poorer countries in general, they don't. They may be able to arrange something, but when that happens, that means you're under the gun. So a better way to do it is to find a way to get to actual debt reduction so that you have light at the end of the tunnel, get out from under the debt. So that applies to the lower income countries. You know, we're up to where there are dozens and dozens where the debt is unsustainable, and that means you need to have some solution to go through it. That's under discussion.